Hello, how are you? This is our first video of the circulatory system. We are going to talk much about the structure of the circulatory system or the physical components of the circulatory system before we talk about how they work and all. So we're going to be looking at the structures of the organs and the associated vessels of the circulatory system. So our learning outcomes, we want to, by the end of the lesson or this presentation, we should be able to state that the mammalian circulatory system is a closed double circulation which comprises of a heart, blood and vessels, which we shall look at in detail, particularly the arteries, the arterioles, the capillaries, the veins and the venues. We should also be able to describe the functions of the main blood vessels, of the two systems which are present in the circulatory system, which are the pulmonary circulation and the systemic circulation. All right, and the vessels we'll talk about them in more detail. And we should also be able to recognize these vessels from electron micrographs or from photomicrographs or from microscope slides, okay? And then we should also be able to explain the structure of the muscular arteries, the elastic arteries, the veins, and the capillaries and how they are related to their functions. So the cardiovascular system is the main transport system of the body. Remember, we are talking about transport. And transport, we say that the main function of transport, we want to circulate nutrients, to remove waste from the body, and to transport oxygen, etc. So we say that we needed a pump, we need a fluid or a medium of transport, and we also need vessels or connecting pipes. And in this case, the media is the blood, which flows in closed tubes or vessels. So, major functions of the cardiovascular system: to transport nutrients, to transport hormones, to remove waste, for gaseous exchange, to provide immunity. We shall talk about that at a later stage. Also to carry nutrients, and so that and also the major function of the heart is to pump blood through the vessels to facilitate all the above movements, okay? So some components of the cardiovascular system include, or the major components of the cardiovascular system include blood, heart, and the vessels, okay? In outline, the blood comprises of blood cells and plasma. The blood cells are the erythrocytes, or the red blood cells as we normally call them, the leukocytes, or as we normally call them, white blood cells, and then the thrombocytes, which are the platelets. In some texts you find that the platelets are fragments of dead cells and etc. So you may find that in some texts you find thrombocytes, but in some texts you find platelets, okay? So the plasma, when we remove the red blood cells and the white blood cells, the fluid that remains with the dissolved nutrients and proteins is what we call the plasma. Okay, so the heart is a four-chambered organ, approximately the size of a human fist. It is located at the upper surface of the diaphragm, left side of the midline, but behind the vertebral column, okay? But yeah, so this is in general where the heart is located. You can see here that the heart is kind of more disposed to the left, okay? You can also see here that the greater portion of, if we put like a a line here, you can see that the heart is more of positioned to the left side of the chest, okay? And you can see here the superior vena cava bringing blood from the head and the deoxygenated blood from the head and the arms, okay? And you can see here the aorta, again taking blood away from the heart to the rest of the body. These are very, very conspicuous vessels of the heart, which we shall talk about in a moment, okay? So this is the structure of the heart. I want you to take note of the fact that the heart has got two sides separated by this some tissue here, which is the tissue separating here, okay, which is the septum. And then you can also see that this is the left side and then this is the right side, all right? And then these two sides, they both have atria and ventricles, okay? So the atria is the atrium is the one which is on top. We've got the left atrium here, and then separated by these semilunar valves, separated by these valves, these atrioventricular valves, sorry. So the atria are separated from the ventricles by the atrioventricular valves, all right? You can see also the atrioventricular valves, this side. And notice that the walls of the atria are thinner than the walls of the ventricles. Of course, this is because these are just adapted for receiving blood into the heart, so they don't need a lot of muscle here. And then the walls of the ventricles are thicker because these walls should be contracting so that they can push blood out of the heart to either the body or the lungs. So they need some kind of contractile muscle, okay? And then you also notice that the left side of the heart, the walls of the left side are thicker than the walls of the right. This is because blood being pumped from the right side is much, it's going to be pushed for a longer distance. So the walls of the left side are thicker, whereas these walls of the right are just going to be pushing blood for a short distance to the lungs. All right. Take note also of the valves. You say that we've got atrioventricular valves separating the atria from the ventricles, but we also have these semilunar valves. Okay. This one is the pulmonary artery taking blood away from the heart to the lungs. Whenever you see pulmonary, it means it's relating to the lungs. So we've got these valves to prevent backflow of blood, and we also have some valves here inside the pulmonary artery. We also have valves in the aorta as well, okay, obviously to prevent backflow of blood into the ventricles. So the aorta is the only artery which has got valves, all right? Then you can notice that this heart has got this vena cava bringing blood from the body. You notice that this side is kind of blue, signifying deoxygenated blood. This side is kind of red, signifying oxygenated blood. All right. So we talked about the functions of the heart. In the associated blood vessels, we talked about in outline the arteries, the capillaries, and the veins. But we should notice that the blood vessels are a closed network of tubes. The arteries are the main distributing channel. They take blood away from the heart. They are thick-walled, they are elastic, and they've got smooth circular muscle. Whereas the capillaries are also small parts of the arteries, which are 1 cell thick to reduce the diffusion distance, okay, and to also help in exchange of materials. And then the veins are the ones which bring back deoxygenated blood from the body, as well as the pulmonary vein bringing blood from the lungs. So, in general, blood vessels comprise of the following. They've got the tunica intima, you can see labeled 1, and we've got the tunica media, and then we've got the tunica adventitia or adventitia. Arteries are the blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart. You can see that in this wall is kind of thick, and this tunica media comprises of smooth muscle and elastic fiber, this one, alright. Then we've got the tunica adventitia, which are the collagen fibers, and then we've got the tunica intima, which is the endothelium inside which lines the lumen of the vessels. And the lumen is this empty space here, alright. This empty space here, this is what we call the lumen, alright. So the arteries are the thickest, they carry blood under high pressure, and the blood is usually oxygen rich, or we just normally call oxygenated, alright. Their lumen is small compared to the veins, because they've got a lot of smooth muscle. They do not have valves except the aorta, and they branch into arterioles. The arteries branch into arterioles, then the arterioles branch into capillaries. Okay. So we've got elastic. The classes of arteries, we've got elastic arteries, which are the aorta and its major branches, which are the main arteries which bring blood to most of the body. Then we've got muscular arteries, e.g. the one which brings blood to the kidneys, to the testes, alright, and to the bones here. And then we've got these arterioles, which are those small, thin, microscopic arteries which facilitate exchange of. So these are the smallest, these capillaries, and they connect the arteries and the veins, and they are so thin that they only allow one red blood cell to move at a time. Thereby, they ensure that stuff is going to be exchanged nicely, okay? And then the veins are the ones that carry blood back to the heart, and they've got valves to ensure that blood flows in one way, and thereby preventing backflow of blood. And the blood carried by the veins is high in or rich in carbon dioxide, so it is called deoxygenated blood. Not that there's no oxygen whatsoever, but the oxygen content is just low, okay? So that's why the blood which has got oxygen content appears kind of bluish, alright? And the veins are thin-walled, they have a larger lumen as compared to the arteries now. And they've got valves, we talked about that one. And we've got large veins, small veins, and medium veins. Because pressure in the veins is going to be low, due to the fact that they are going to be affected by gravity, and blood has to go against gravity, etc. It therefore implies that other factors will be responsible for blood flowing back to the heart, e.g. muscle contraction and the pulsating action of arteries, and also the presence of valves enabling one-way flow of blood in the veins. Our circulation is mainly divided into two. We've got the pulmonary circulation, which exchanges blood between the heart and the lungs. And then we've got the systemic circulation, which exchanges blood between the heart and the body. Okay, and then we also have some circulations in like the coronary circulation. The heart is also going to receive oxygenated blood from the aorta, and then when a fetus is still developing, there's also some fetal circulation, which we'll just briefly talk about. So you can see the pulmonary circulation here, blood coming from the right ventricle via the pulmonary artery here, going to the lungs. So this is deoxygenated blood being carried to the lungs. It loses its oxygen in the alveoli, etc. It loses its carbon dioxide, and then gains oxygen. Then oxygenated blood comes back to the heart via the pulmonary vein into the left atrium via the atrioventricular valves into the left ventricle, then to the rest of the body via the aorta, which is going to branch into arteries, arterioles, and finally in the capillaries. All right. So this is the systemic circulation, whereby the blood is going to be transported to the rest of the body cells and back. And the pulmonary circulation, or the pulmonary circuit, is whereby the blood is going to be transported to the lungs and back to the heart. So you can see that in one complete circulation, blood moves from the heart back to the heart. Okay, so and then it moves to the lungs. So it is called a double circulation for two reasons. Number one, it comprises of a pulmonary circuit and a systemic circuit. Number two, because blood moves through the heart twice in one circulation. Okay, all right. So this is just another picture of the heart, all right, showing how the heart receives blood from the aorta. And this is another one showing how blood is distributed in a developing fetus. Okay, this shall be important at a later stage. Sometimes there are some diseases which may affect the circulatory system. I'm just going to mention them, but we'll talk about coronary heart disease at a later stage. Okay, but just for mentions, we've got high blood pressure or hypertension. We've got stroke or hemorrhage. We've got atherosclerosis. Then we've got aneurysm. We've got coronary artery disease, which we generally call, this is part of a general group of diseases called coronary heart disease. We've got heart attacks. We've got heart failure. We've got anemia, hemophilia, leukemia. These are just some diseases which affect the circulatory system. So, although these are quite common, they are now affecting not only the older people, but even children and teenagers due to changes in diet and lifestyle. So you better take care of your heart, all right? So this is the end of our video. Thank you for listening. This is the first video of the circulatory system. I shall yet again post another one on blood and its associated and its functions, and I hope you will benefit much. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask.